This Citroen C4 has 125,000 miles on the clock. The trouble is, the service history only covers up to 35,000 miles. So that's a 90,000 mile black hole where I just don't know if this car has been serviced. So the engine could have a lot of sludge in it. It's a 1.6 turbo diesel, a very popular engine known as the DV6 and the DLD. It's developed between Peugeot and Ford, and it's used in Citroens, Peugeots, Fords, Mazdas, Volvos. Even BMW put this engine in their 1 Series. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out how much power this engine is making. I'm going to do an engine decontamination treatment, which should clean out the engine, hopefully remove any sludge, and then I'll do an after figure for its power and torque. I've taken the car to Velocity Tuning in Colchester, where Tommy is going to put it on a rolling road, which is kind of like a treadmill for a car, to find out exactly how much power and torque it's making, or should I say lost in its 10 years of existence. From factory, it should have 110 PS, which is the equivalent to 108 brake horsepower, and 270 Newton meters of torque. So Tommy, what are the numbers?
So today you have made 106 brake horsepower,
Okay.
and 280 Newton meters of torque.
Ooh. I have to say I'm quite impressed. Only 1.5 brake horsepower loss in power over 125,000 miles of use, and it has 10 more Newton meters of torque than the factory claim. But to be fair, I often find when I get cars dynoed, they produce more power and torque than the factory say they're supposed to. So there could be room for improvement there. But what is impressive, over the last 140 miles, which includes some dyno runs, 58.8 miles to the gallon. Not to be sniffed at. I'm now at Duke's Park Automotive in Chelmsford, where they're going to hook this car up to a machine. The machine is called Engine Decontamination Treatment, EDT. That's the brand name, but it describes exactly what it does. Decontaminates engine. It connects to where the oil filter goes and the sump, and then it pumps mineral oil heated at 40 psi around the engine and through a 3 micron filter, hopefully leaving the engine nice and clean. I've heard good things. I've heard that it can improve low down torque and engine responsiveness, but I've also heard that it can improve the way these robotized manuals, which is what this car has, changes gear. Because if the engine is producing the torque it should and responding as it should, then the programming for the gearbox should work as intended. Once the machine is connected up to the oil filter and the sump of the engine, the machine pushes through oil via the oil filter at 40 psi around the engine until the engine has filled with oil. In this case, it's 3.8 litres. It then drains the oil and filters it through the machine. There's various filters in the machine, including this big white one at the front, which starts off white but then turns black. The machine repeats this 4 times. Then the machine performs a flush, where it pushes oil via the oil filter around the engine and straight out the bottom of the sump without allowing the sump to fill up. Once that was done, the machine was disconnected, the sump plug was reinstalled, a new oil filter was fitted, and then the engine was filled with the appropriate oil. With every engine decontamination treatment performed, Duke's Park Automotive adds a fuel additive to the fuel tank to help clean the fuel system and the injectors. Question is it any smoother? Well, that gear change felt smoother, and so didn't that one. It's not huge, but there is a noticeable difference. I have to say, I'm quite surprised. Let's launch it from a low speed then. Let's roll out of here. When I see my opportunity, I'll floor it and we'll see how it copes. I might fast forward to an opportunity for you. All right, here we go. After these 2 lorries. Looking good. Let's go. Okay. Not the best gear shifts in the world, but this gearbox isn't the best in the world. But I'd definitely say that was better. Back at Velocity Tuning in Colchester to see if there's any change in the car's power and torque. So, I don't actually think it has any more power or any more torque, but initial low down response seems a bit better to me.
Okay.
What's the figures?
So, coming in now, you are making an extra 3 horsepower.
3?
Yep.
3 more?
3 more.
Yes.
So you're now at 109. And going over the torque, you was at 280 newton meters.
Yeah.
You're now at 283.
So 3 more.
3 more newton meters as well.
Not as impressive, I don't feel, because I think the torque often seems to be more than the... But 3 of both, is it better at the beginning?
No. So up to 2000 RPM, the lines are literally identical over each other. So there is no difference in power.
Right.
Up until around 2200, where you gain at 3 newton meters.
Yeah.
And then for the rest of the engine's RPM, it sort of holds that 3 newton meters, 3 brake horsepower across the board.
So my judgment was essentially completely wrong. It does have more power, it does have more torque, and the initial response is exactly the same.
I would say that the gain is very minimal,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't expect you to feel it, but basically what you just said, yeah.
Proves I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I may have been completely wrong. It does produce more power, and it does have a bit more torque. Only a small amount though. You're not going to notice 3 horsepower and 3 newton meters of torque. But the good news is that it does mean that the car has as much power as it should. In fact, a little bit more power than it should from new. And it's got 125,000 miles on the clock. So therefore, I have to say, I recommend this treatment. It costs £215, but that includes an oil and filter change, and that's something you have to do periodically anyway. But I do believe the gear changes are smoother. It may be in my head, it may be a placebo, who knows? It shouldn't be smoother if the car's producing no more torque, because that was the theory. If it produces its correct amount of torque, then it's going to change gear better. But what the dyno doesn't necessarily show is how responsive the gas is. It's showing you how much torque it's producing and how much power it's producing, but does the car react to the movement of the gas pedal immediately? How sensitive that is? I have no idea. Either way, I'm fairly pleased. So if you like the video, give it a like, subscribe to get my future videos, and until the next one, cheerio. There's a regular journey I make, which is just under 30 miles long. I've lost count how many times I've done it in this car so far, but I've never seen more than 60 miles to the gallon. It's normally between 55 and 60, but after the treatment, I got 64.1. Now, this is purely anecdotal. It's not scientific. The weather's a bit warmer than it has been, and there was a bit more traffic, so I was going slower than usual, but it's a promising sign.